There comes a moment, often so quiet that the mind almost misses it, when something inside you pauses and listens. It is not the voice of fear, not the endless commentary of the ego explaining, defending, comparing, and rehearsing the past. It is something softer, older, infinitely wiser. It is the awareness that says, without words, you are ready now, ready to stop fighting life, ready to stop demanding that the river flow backward, ready to remember who you were before you learn to doubt yourself. If you are hearing this, it is not an accident. Nothing meaningful ever is. When the soul is prepared, the teaching appears. When the soil is receptive, the seed knows exactly where to land. So let us begin not with effort, not with striving, but with noticing. Notice the breath entering your body without being asked. Notice the heart beating faithfully, never once requesting your permission. Notice how the sun rises every morning without consulting your opinions, how the seasons turn without argument or resistance. There is an intelligence moving through everything, an organizing principle that has never failed to know how to grow a tree from an acorn or shape galaxies out of silence. And that same intelligence is moving through you now. The question has never been whether life is supporting you. The only question has been whether you are willing to align with it. Much of human suffering comes from a single misunderstanding, the belief that you are separate from the flow of life, that you must control it, dominate it, or outthink it in order to be safe. The ego thrives on this illusion. It whispers that you are unfinished, unworthy, behind schedule. It convinces you that peace is conditional, that joy must be earned, that love is something to chase rather than something to allow. And so you spend years running toward a future that never arrives, dragging the past behind you like a heavy chain, wondering why fulfillment feels just out of reach. But the truth is simpler, gentler, and far more liberating. You were never meant to carry all of that weight. Awareness is the first awakening. Awareness is the light that reveals what has always been here. When you become aware of your thoughts, you begin to see that many of them are recycled echoes of fear, borrowed beliefs, inherited limitations. They are not you. They are events passing through consciousness, like clouds drifting across an open sky. The sky does not argue with the clouds. It does not cling to them or resent them. It simply allows them to move on. And in that allowance, the sky remains untouched. You, too, are that spacious awareness, not the passing storms. The moment you truly see this, something remarkable happens. You stop trying to fix yourself. You stop waging war against your own humanity. You recognize that healing does not come from correcting some imagined flaw, but from remembering your wholeness. The soul does not need improvement. It needs recognition. It needs your willingness to be present, to listen, to trust what it has been quietly guiding you toward all along. Alignment begins when you choose thoughts that harmonize with truth rather than fear. This does not mean denying challenges or pretending that pain does not exist. It means refusing to let pain define you. It means understanding that every experience, even the most difficult, carries information rather than punishment. Life is not happening to you. It is responding to you. When you align your inner world with peace, clarity, and compassion, the outer world reorganizes itself in ways that often feel miraculous, but are simply natural consequences of resonance. Think of a tuning fork. Strike one, and another nearby begins to vibrate without being touched. Your thoughts work the same way. When you consistently tune yourself to gratitude, to kindness, to trust, life answers in the same frequency. This is not superstition. It is the nature of energy. You cannot hold resentment and inner freedom at the same time. You cannot cling to the past and be fully present now. One dissolves as the other is chosen. Inner peace is not the absence of noise, but the absence of resistance to noise. It is the understanding that you do not need conditions to be perfect in order to be content. Peace is a decision you make in this moment, and then again in the next, and again after that. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are supported by something far greater than your personal will. When you trust the intelligence that moves the universe, you stop forcing outcomes. You stop exhausting yourself with control. You allow life to meet you halfway. This trust is not passive. It is deeply alive. It is an active surrender, a conscious choice to cooperate with reality rather than argue with it. Imagine how much energy you would reclaim if you stopped resisting what is and started working with it. Imagine how light you would feel if you released the need to be right, the need to prove, the need to carry old stories about who hurt you and why. There are no justified resentments, because resentment is always a claim that the present moment should be different from what it is, and the present moment never negotiates. Forgiveness, then, is not something you do for others. It is something you do to free yourself from the prison of your own mind. When you forgive, you are not saying that what happened was acceptable. You are saying that you refuse to let it own you any longer. You are choosing peace over the familiar chaos of anger. You are choosing to align with the intelligence of love rather than the habit of pain. The ego will protest. It always does. It will say that if you let go, you will lose your edge, your identity, your protection. But what you lose is only what was never real to begin with. What you gain is spaciousness, creativity, and a profound sense of belonging. You realize that you are not a stranger in this universe. You are an expression of it. You are not here to conquer life. You are here to participate in it. When you shift your thoughts, your life does not change because the world suddenly becomes kinder. Your life changes because you begin to see clearly. You notice opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You feel guidance where you once felt confusion. You trust your intuition because you finally recognize it as the language of the soul. The soul always knows. It has always known. It speaks through feelings of expansion and contraction, through quiet nudges and moments of stillness. It does not shout, it invites. Living in the now is not a spiritual slogan, it is a practical liberation. The present moment is the only place where life can actually meet you. The past exists only as memory, the future only as imagination. When you anchor your awareness here, you discover that most of what you feared was never real. You discover that joy is not postponed. It is available in the simplest experiences. A breath, a smile, a moment of clarity. The now is where alignment happens. The now is where peace lives. You are already enough, not because you have achieved something, but because existence itself chose you. You are here because life said yes to you. You do not need to add anything to be worthy of love or belonging. You need only to remove the false beliefs that told you otherwise. When you stop measuring yourself against external standards, you begin to feel the quiet dignity of simply being. This is not complacency. It is authenticity. As awareness deepens, you may notice that life seems to guide you with greater precision. The right words appear at the right time. The right connections form effortlessly. This is not because you are special in the egoic sense, but because you are aligned. You are no longer swimming against the current. You are allowing yourself to be carried by the same force that carries the stars. And there will still be challenges. Awakening does not remove you from life, it brings you fully into it. But you meet difficulties differently now. You meet them with curiosity rather than fear, with compassion rather than judgment. You understand that every experience is either an expression of love or a call for it. This understanding softens you without making you weak. It strengthens you without hardening your heart. When your soul is ready, reminders appear. Sometimes they come as words, sometimes as silence, sometimes as a deep knowing that cannot be explained. This is one of those reminders. Not to tell you what to become, but to remind you of what you already are. A divine being having a human experience. A point of awareness through which the universe is learning about itself. So trust the process unfolding in your life. Trust the timing that seems mysterious, but is always precise. Trust that when you shift your thoughts from fear to faith, from control to cooperation, from resentment to forgiveness, your life naturally moves in a new direction. Not because you forced it to, but because you finally allowed it to. And in that allowing, you discover the quiet truth that has been waiting patiently beneath all the noise. You were never lost. You were only listening to the wrong voice. Now, as awareness returns, alignment becomes natural, inner peace becomes familiar, and trusting the intelligence that moves the universe feels less like a leap of faith and more like coming home. And as you settle into this remembering, something subtle yet profound begins to shift inside you. It is as though a long-held tension loosens its grip, as though a door you forgot was there quietly opens. You realize that so much of your life was spent trying to become someone, when all along you were being invited to unbecome everything that was never true. This is the gentle paradox of awakening. You do not acquire wisdom, you remove the noise that hid it. You do not chase peace. You stop interrupting it. There is a sacred intelligence at work within you that has nothing to do with your resume, your history, or the labels you have worn. It existed before your first success and remains untouched by your greatest disappointment. When you align with this intelligence, you feel a sense of ease that cannot be manufactured. You move through the world with less friction. Decisions feel clearer, not because life becomes simpler, but because you are no longer divided within yourself. Alignment is inner agreement. It is when your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are no longer at odds. So many people live in quiet resistance, arguing with what is, replaying what should have been, rehearsing what might go wrong. This resistance drains life of its natural vitality. But when you soften into acceptance, not resignation, but conscious acceptance, you step into a different relationship with reality. You stop asking life to meet your conditions, and you begin meeting life as it is. This is where freedom lives, not in controlling outcomes, but in releasing the illusion that control was ever possible. The ego, clever and persistent, will attempt to reclaim its authority. It will dress itself up as logic, as caution, as responsibility. It will say, be careful. Don't trust too much. Don't let go yet. And you need not fight it. You simply observe it. Awareness does not argue. It witnesses. And in witnessing, the ego loses its grip because it thrives only when it is believed without question. The moment you see it as a pattern rather than an identity, its power dissolves. This is where compassion naturally arises, not just for others, but for yourself. You begin to see how innocently you learned your fears, how faithfully you carried beliefs that were never yours to begin with. There is no need for self-judgment here. Judgment belongs to the past. Compassion belongs to now. And compassion is transformative. It does not demand change, it allows it. As your inner dialogue softens, your outer world responds in kind. You may notice fewer conflicts, or perhaps the same situations arise, but no longer disturb you in the same way. This is the quiet miracle of inner peace. Peace does not mean that storms never come. It means you no longer mistake yourself for the storm. You are the awareness watching it pass. You are the stillness in which movement happens. Trust deepens here, not as blind faith, but as lived experience. You begin to trust life because you see, again and again, that when you release rigid expectations, something more fitting often emerges. You see that detours carry information, that delays have intelligence, that endings make space for beginnings you could not have planned. The universe is not punishing you, it is guiding you, sometimes away from what you want in order to bring you closer to what you need. And then there is forgiveness, the great unburdening of the heart. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering without pain. It is the recognition that holding on to anger does not protect you, it imprisons you. When you forgive, you are not excusing behavior. You are reclaiming your energy. You are choosing to no longer carry the emotional weight of moments that have already passed. This choice is radical. It frees you from the past and returns you to the only place where power exists, this moment. In this moment, you are whole. In this moment, nothing is missing. In this moment, you are enough, not because life has validated you, but because you are life expressing itself uniquely through you. This is not philosophy meant to be admired. It is a truth meant to be lived. When you live from this understanding, comparison fades. Envy loses its appeal. You stop measuring your worth against someone else's path. You honor your own timing, your own rhythm. Living in the now becomes effortless when you realize that the present moment is not something to master, but something to enter. It is always open. It does not ask for credentials. It simply asks for your attention. When your attention rests here, anxiety loosens because the future is no longer being imagined as a threat. Regret softens because the past is no longer being relived as identity. You are here, and here is enough. The soul communicates through this presence. It speaks through intuition, through subtle feelings of alignment or unease. When something feels expansive, life-giving, peaceful, even when it is challenging, you are likely moving in harmony with your deeper self. When something feels contracted, heavy, or fear-driven, it is not a failure, it is information. The soul is always guiding, never condemning. It offers direction, not judgment. As you learn to listen, you discover that you are never truly alone. there is an underlying companionship in existence itself. A sense that you are held, supported, and guided by an intelligence that knows far more than the conscious mind can grasp. Trusting this intelligence does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means releasing anxiety. It means doing what is yours to do and then letting go of the outcome. It means planting the seed and trusting the soil. And so your life begins to move differently, not with force, but with flow. You notice synchronicities that once would have gone unnoticed. You feel gratitude not as a practice, but as a natural response to seeing clearly. Gratitude arises when you recognize that life is not withholding from you. It is constantly offering, moment by moment, opportunities to awaken, to heal, to remember. This is the deeper promise hidden within every spiritual teaching, that peace is not somewhere else, that fulfillment is not delayed, that you do not need to become someone new in order to be free. You need only to return to what you already are: awareness, presence, love in motion. When your soul is ready, reminders like this appear not to give you something, but to remove what is no longer necessary, to help you lay down the armor you no longer need, to invite you into a life guided not by fear, but by trust. And as you continue to shift your thoughts, gently, patiently, your life continues to reorganize itself around that inner clarity. Not all at once, not dramatically, but faithfully, quietly. In exactly the way it always has, when you finally stop resisting the intelligence that moves the universe and allow yourself to move with it. And as this movement with life becomes more familiar, you begin to notice something extraordinary hiding in plain sight. Effort starts to dissolve. Not the kind of effort that brings care and presence to what you do, but the exhausting effort of proving, defending, and becoming. You see how much energy was spent trying to secure a sense of worth, as though value were something fragile that could be taken away. In this seeing, a quiet relief washes through you. You recognize that worth was never negotiable. It was never on trial. It was inherent, like the warmth of the sun or the depth of the ocean. This recognition changes the way you relate to yourself. The inner critic, once loud and relentless, begins to lose its urgency. You no longer take every thought personally. You understand that the mind was trained to scan for danger, to anticipate loss, to protect an imagined self. And you thank it for its service, even as you gently refuse to let it run your life. You are not here to silence the mind. You are here to place it in service to something greater than fear. From this place, kindness arises naturally. Not as a moral obligation, but as an expression of clarity. When you see that others, too, are navigating their own inherited fears and unconscious patterns, judgment softens. You stop needing to be superior or separate. You meet life with curiosity rather than condemnation. This does not make you naive, it makes you wise. Wisdom sees complexity without losing compassion. You may begin to feel a deeper intimacy with ordinary moments. A cup of tea becomes a meditation. A walk becomes a conversation with life. Stillness is no longer uncomfortable. It is nourishing. Silence is no longer empty. It is full of presence. In these moments, you are not trying to extract meaning from experience. Meaning reveals itself effortlessly when you are fully there. And there is a growing trust in timing. You stop rushing what wants to unfold slowly. You stop clinging to what is clearly asking to be released. There is a sense that life has its own rhythm, one that cannot be hurried without consequence. When you align with this rhythm, patience is no longer a discipline. It is a natural response to understanding. You know that forcing ripeness only spoils the fruit. The past begins to loosen its hold, not because you push it away, but because you no longer feed it with attention. Memories may still arise, but they do not define you. They are chapters, not the book. You honor what they taught you, and then you let them rest. The future, too, becomes lighter. You plan when planning is useful, and then you release the rest. Anxiety fades when you realize that life has never required you to have all the answers in advance. There is a growing sense of cooperation with what is. You notice when you are in alignment because things feel simpler, even when they are challenging. You notice when you are resisting because tension appears, both in the body and in the mind. These sensations become guides rather than problems. The body, too, is part of this intelligence. It speaks through comfort and discomfort, ease and strain. When you listen, it leads you back into balance. You begin to understand that healing is not linear. It unfolds in spirals, revisiting familiar places with new awareness. Old patterns may resurface, but now you meet them with gentleness instead of frustration. You see progress not as perfection, but as presence. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, you are free in that moment. And freedom, you realize, is not a destination. It is a practice of returning. The idea of control continues to soften. You see how life has always been responding to the quality of your attention. When your attention was rooted in fear, life reflected tension and struggle. When your attention shifts toward trust and openness, life responds with clarity and support. This is not because the world has changed, but because your relationship with it has. You are no longer pushing against the current. You are allowing yourself to be carried. There is a quiet joy in this allowance. Not the excitement that depends on circumstances, but the steady joy of alignment. It feels like standing in sunlight after years of shade. You realize that joy does not require a reason. It arises naturally when resistance dissolves. It is the default state of a mind at peace with itself. And with this joy comes humility. Not the kind that diminishes you, but the kind that places you accurately within the whole. You see that you are neither insignificant nor separate. You are a vital expression of something vast. Life is experiencing itself through you, uniquely, moment by moment. This understanding brings both reverence and ease. You no longer need to carry the universe on your shoulders. You are carried by it. As this awareness deepens, you may notice that your priorities change. What once seemed urgent loses its grip. What once felt important reveals itself as distraction. You are drawn toward what is meaningful, not because you are trying to be spiritual, but because clarity naturally gravitates toward truth. You choose depth over noise, presence over performance, authenticity over approval. And so the unfolding continues, quietly, faithfully, not as a dramatic transformation that separates you from the world, but as a gentle awakening that brings you more fully into it. You are still human. You still feel. You still learn. But you are no longer lost in the illusion that you are alone or incomplete. You are aware. You are aligned. You are at peace, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer arguing with it. And as you continue to shift your thoughts patiently, compassionately, your life continues to move in a new direction. One that feels less like striving and more like remembering, less like becoming and more like being, less like searching and more like finally recognizing that what you were looking for has been here all along. And as this remembering settles fully into your being, there is a quiet homecoming that takes place. Not a dramatic arrival, not a declaration, but a gentle recognition that you have always been where you needed to be. The seeking relaxes. The striving softens. You sense, perhaps for the first time, that life has never been asking you to chase it, only to trust it. The intelligence that turns seeds into forests and night skies into constellations has been guiding you all along, even in moments when you believed you were lost. There is a tenderness here, a reverence for your own journey. You see how every misstep carried instruction, how every pause had purpose, how every ending was clearing space for a deeper beginning. Nothing was wasted, nothing was random. Even the moments of confusion were part of the awakening, gently loosening your attachment to certainty so that wisdom could enter. You understand now that clarity does not come from controlling the path, but from walking it with presence. In this awareness, you no longer ask life to prove itself to you. You feel the quiet assurance that you are supported, not because circumstances are always kind, but because something within you is unshakable. You are rooted in being rather than outcome. You meet each moment as it arrives, neither clinging nor resisting, allowing experience to move through you like breath. This is inner freedom, not escape from life, but intimacy with it. And there is a softness in your gaze now, toward yourself and toward others. You see beyond roles and reactions. You recognize the shared longing beneath every human story, the desire to be at peace, to belong, to remember love. This recognition dissolves separation. It invites compassion without effort. You do not need to agree with everyone to understand them. You do not need to fix the world to meet it with kindness. The present moment becomes your refuge, not because it shields you from pain, but because it anchors you in truth. Here, you are not defined by memory or anticipation. Here, you are alive, awake, responsive. The mind grows quieter, not because it has been silenced, but because it has been relieved of its burden. It no longer needs to guard your worth or predict your safety. You have remembered something deeper than thought, and in this remembering, gratitude arises naturally. Not gratitude for things being perfect, but gratitude for being present, for breathing, for seeing clearly, for the simple miracle of awareness itself. Gratitude becomes a way of living, a gentle acknowledgement that life is always offering you exactly what you need to awaken further. You move forward now with trust, not as an idea, but as a lived experience. You trust yourself because you trust the intelligence that lives through you. You trust timing because you have seen how life unfolds with precision when you stop interfering. You trust that when it is time for the next step, it will reveal itself, just as this moment revealed itself when you were ready. There is no finish line here, no final destination. Awakening is not something you complete, it is something you continue to choose. Each breath is an invitation, each thought is a doorway. Each moment offers you the same quiet question: will you meet life with fear or with love? And each time you choose awareness, alignment follows. Each time you choose trust, peace deepens. So rest here in this knowing, not as an ending, but as a beginning that has always been present. Let the mind relax its grip. Let the heart open without agenda. Let life move you, guide you, surprise you. You do not need to rush. You do not need to arrive. You are already home in the only place that has ever mattered. And as you continue on, gently, patiently, may you remember this truth whenever the world feels loud or uncertain. When your soul is ready, the path appears. When you shift your thoughts, your life moves naturally in a new direction. And when you trust the intelligence that moves the universe, you discover that it has always been moving you toward peace.